Since July 1st, 1986, wearing your seatbelt is required by law in Iowa, as well as many other states. Well, the law is in effect. Whether or not you wear your seatbelt should really be up to you. That is, if you are willing to pay the ticket. But the question that many people ask is why it is a law rather than a choice? This is a question that I support. Many attempts throughout the country, all of which have failed until 1985, had been made to pass seatbelt laws prior to the legislation being passed. In a Gallup report from 1982, 75% of the people polled still had strong opposition towards seatbelt laws. So, with this strong public opinion against the law, how is it still passing regulations? According to the article, The Fraud of Seatbelt Laws, posted on fee.org, money was a deciding factor. The automakers had been very much against the passive restraint regulations because they felt the cost to install the restraints would raise the cost of the overall vehicle. So automakers began spending billions of dollars to lobby for seatbelt laws. Those that had been elected to the people by the people to represent the people seemed unable to do so when lobbyists came calling with their money. However, once the seatbelt laws were passed, the government did not stick to their word and still passed the laws anyway. The law has been restated many times, with the current law stating that any model 1966 year or newer motor vehicle are required by law to have safety harnesses or safety belts to conform with the federal motor vehicle standards. Also, the driver and the front seat occupants are to be properly restrained at any time the vehicle is in forward motion. There are also specific restrictions required for children. A child under 1 year of age and weighing less than 20 pounds being transported in a motor vehicle, except a school bus or motorcycle, is to be secured during transit in a rear-facing child restraint system, according to the law. The provisions requiring a child to be secured apply whether the child is in the front or back seat of the motor vehicle. These facts are according to the Iowa DOT. As you can see from this map, the blue states are the ones that are required by law to wear the seatbelt, and the purple states are the ones that only have a secondary law. While this seems like a lot of restrictions for everyone in a vehicle, there are several exceptions to that seatbelt law. The first exception being the driver and the front seat occupant of a motor vehicle who is actively engaged in a work that requires to get in and out of the vehicle and is going less than 25 miles per hour between stops are exempt from the seatbelt law. However, even though mail carriers go more than 25 miles per hour, they are still exempt from the law between their first stop at a mill and the last time they go to the post office. Another exception is that any occupants operating a manufactured vehicle prior to 1966 is not required to have a seatbelt. That is because any vehicle made before the year 1966 did not have any seatbelts in them, and therefore they are not required to wear the seatbelt because it would be an inconvenience to the owner of the vehicle to provide the money that they need to get the seatbelts put in. One final exception I read about is if you are not capable of wearing a seatbelt for a medical reason and you have a certification from the Iowa Department of Transportation, then you are exempt. However, there is some restriction on the certification. The restriction is the certification must specify a period of time between 12 months. The certification can be renewed at the end of the 12 months if you still have the medical problem. Now that you have heard the law and some of its exceptions, what is the reasoning behind the law? The most common reason by those that support the seatbelt laws is that it saves your lives. For instance, more than 15,000 lives are saved each year in the United States, according to the National Highways Traffic Safety Administration. According to the research done by Oklahoma State, the most common reason people wear seatbelts is because it will prevent 50% of the injuries. MedPage Today states that spinal injuries are reduced 33% with the combination of airbags and seatbelts. While these numbers may seem significant, I was surprised they are not higher, since this is a law that is required to save your life. There does not seem to be strong evidence that wearing your seatbelt saves your life. However, there is evidence that it has been seriously injured or killed while wearing their seatbelt. A study released in 1988 by the Highway Loss Data Institute compared auto accident claims before and after the enactment of the seatbelt law in 8 states and could find no clear-cut evidence of whether the seatbelts actually saved lives. These results are disappointing, that report added. I know personally that seatbelts are not 100% effective because my cousin was killed while wearing a seatbelt because he broke his neck because the oncoming driver had struck him. Wearing your seatbelt does not always save your life, and that is why I think it should no longer be a law, but a choice every time you get into your car. To aid in my research of the seatbelt law, I interviewed Brad Newton, a Dare County sheriff. Officer Newton has been in law enforcement for 32 years and has been a Dare County sheriff for the past 5 years. When I asked Officer Newton what he thought about the seatbelt law and if they saved lives, he said, undoubtedly. According to Officer Newton, even though there are only 7 seatbelt tickets given in Adair County in the last 5 years, there have still been many traffic stops that have been held with the violators. He also indicated that this number does not include tickets that may have been issued in connection with a motor vehicle accident. Officer Newton indicated even though the seatbelt law is a primary law in Iowa, meaning you can be stopped for suspicion of not wearing your seatbelt, his officers do not actively ticket violators. Because of the demographics of our county, it is difficult to ticket a 75-year-old farmer who doesn't know the law. His officer instead try to educate young drivers, stopping them and giving them verbal warnings and discussing the benefits of wearing your seatbelt. Also, they do not find the need to ticket a young driver $127 just because they didn't know. As well as having the moving violation added to their driving record, it has been a very strong opinion not to ticket young drivers. I believe my strongest argument for making wearing a seatbelt a choice rather than a law is that it only is affecting myself, not like it is being forced upon me by the government. Unlike driving while under the influence or driving while distracted, by choosing not to wear your seatbelt, you are only risking yourself and not anyone else. With the DUI, you are risking the passengers in your car, yourself, and also an oncoming vehicle that you could strike. I believe I should have the right to make the decision regarding the safety of my own life. While this may seem like an exaggeration, my body in the car is much like a bag of groceries in the car. I'm not required to seatbelt my groceries in, so what does it mean that I have to? While wearing a seatbelt may be considered safer, so is eating healthy and exercising regularly. Yet there are no laws requiring you to eat broccoli or do sit-ups every day. The police do not carry pincers to measure your body fat ratio and have no authority to give you a ticket about how beautiful you are. If one of the major justifications for the seatbelt law is for your own good, how long will it be before the government is being run on healthy eating and exercise? Where do we draw the line, and on what basis? I accept the fact that wearing your seatbelt is a good idea, and I faithfully wear mine. After researching the statistics of the number of lives and or serious injuries prevented, I do understand the reasoning behind the seatbelts. Also, as a teenage driver, I can't afford a hefty ticket cost and don't want a moving violation on my permanent record. My argument is that it should be a matter of choice, and you should be able to ticket seatbelts just because on a choice.